Okay, so let's take a look at this past weekend's box office. So the total domestic take this past weekend was $113 million, and this was an 87% jump from the previous weekend. If you've been following the show, or at the very least just following the American box office during this calendar year, it hasn't been great. January and February aren't typically really big, strong months for the box office. So that's not surprising necessarily, but, it has been a little disappointing, even for some, not necessarily big blockbuster films, but just kind of films that you thought would maybe perform a little bit better have not been. This weekend, we finally got our first true blockbuster of the year. And maybe it's not as successful as something we would have seen maybe pre-pandemic, but post-pandemic, this is a great opening weekend. And that is, of course, I'm talking about Dune Part 2, opening here at number 1 this weekend, opening at $82 million domestically. And this actually beat projections. It was projected to bring in about 65 to 80. So just barely squeaked above those projections, which is really exciting to see. Since this is a direct sequel to the first Dune, which came out, I believe, in the fall of 2021, it was part of that kind of easing our way back into movie going, post-pandemic, but post in quotes. And also, I believe it was the same year that they did that awful idea, which honestly, I didn't think was awful at the time, but just business-wise has been, proven now to kind of not be the best business decision. I think that was the year where they put, like, all of their movies day and date in theaters and on what was then HBO Max, and now it's just Max. So the original Dune only opened to about 41 million, and so this is basically doubled that exactly. The original Dune brought in about 109 million domestic totally, and 434 million worldwide. And just looking off of if you just literally apply the same math between the two opening weekends to the whole returns, this is looking like this film could make worldwide close to $1 billion, if not cross the $1 billion threshold. It's, I've been hearing phenomenal word of mouth. I am I'm chronically on Letterboxd, and it has right now like a 4.6 out of 5. So like one of the highest rated films that's on there. Obviously that will come down as, the people who have seen it, not necessarily today because it's been the weekend, but it got that score before the weekend even started. So, the people who had seen it before it came out kind of self-select people who would be really into it. So that score will obviously come down, but it's just been getting incredible word of mouth, or just buzz, right? I've just been seeing it everywhere, and I could really see this having some great legs, on top of it just being, again, a fairly well-reviewed film and fairly well-liked. I know there's some people who did not like the first one as much because they thought it was like kind of boring. But from what I understand, the second one basically turns everything up to 11. I'm not sure. I still have not seen it. I'm going to see it tomorrow. So please, do not spoil it for me. But if you have anything, if you saw it, I see a comment here from someone. I won't say your name because I don't want to say who you are if you're not comfortable with that. But we have here JJ because saying, "You're not ready for it, Peter. It makes Dune 1 look like nothing." Yeah, that's how I feel. I rewatched the first one a few nights ago because I'd only seen it one time, not in theaters. Like I watched it in a hotel room like a couple months after it had come out. And I was like, I don't remember any of the lore. So I want to rewatch. It was one of my favorite films of that year. I have the 4K disc, so I popped it in. It was just blown away just by the first one again, and I'm so excited. I'm going to see it in at AMC Lincoln Square IMAX 70mm film tomorrow, like in the middle of the day. I'm so excited. So Dune, is looking to continue dominating probably into the next month or so. Also opening this week, we had at number 5, The Chosen, Season 4, Episodes 7 to 8. I don't know if you've been following. The Chosen is a television show about Jesus Christ and his followers. It's like a multi-season show. And they've been releasing some of the episodes like in these batches in theaters. And the fact that it's been consistently debuting in the top 10, again, just shows how kind of pathetic is a strong word, but just how poorly the American box office has been. Not necessarily because The Chosen isn't worth it. From my understanding, it has a lot of fans, but the fact that it's opening in the top 5 I think says something about the other offerings, right? It brought in about 3.2 million this weekend, bringing it to a 3.9 million worldwide total. Looking at films that continuing their runs, things opened last week. We got Ordinary Angels coming in at number 3. That's like kind of like the Christian family drama film. It brought in about 3.9 million this week. It held its third place spot in its second frame. Only at a 38% drop, so that's a pretty decent hold. Not great, but it's not, something like Madam Web, which I think it's in its second weekend had like this huge, I forget what it was. It was like 60+% or something crazy. Maybe this is a little bit of counter programming here. People who didn't want to go see Dune went to go see this movie instead. Like I said, only about 38% drop, and so far it's brought in about 13 million domestically and worldwide. Also continuing this weekend, we have Demon Slayer. Again, I'm going to mispronounce this, or I'm going to do my best here. Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, to the Hashira training. It brought in about 2.1 million this weekend. Huge drop, dropped from second to seventh in its second frame, an 82% drop, which kind of makes sense though. I feel like everyone who was gonna go see this saw it, right? Totally it's brought in about 16 million domestic and 40 million worldwide. So mostly from more international audiences, but still the fact that it debuted as high as it did, again, I think is less about the quality of this film, however good it might be. I haven't seen it. It speaks less about that and more just the offerings that American moviegoers have at this point. Just a couple other notable things here. So films, again, and we've seen this, again, because of the lack of quality here available to American moviegoers, there are a handful of films, and it's getting less and less every day, or every week, but there are a few films here that have been in theaters for quite some time. So at number 6, we have Migration, bringing in 2.5 million this weekend. It dropped out of the top 5 from 5th to 6th in its 11th frame. So almost 3 months now. Only a 13% drop. Totally in domestic total, it has about $123 million, and worldwide about $277 million. This has been the little engine that could. Again, maybe some kind of counter programming here. Families wind up go see something in theaters. Talk about the engine that could, looking at number 8. I think this is our 5th week of doing these live streams, so super happy to those of you who've been watching. I feel like I've brought this up every single week. Wonka here at number 8, still in the top 10 after 12 frames. It's dropped from 7th to 8th place, brought in about 1.7 million for the weekend. Only a 29% drop. Again, there might be like that counter programming, completely different vibe. Also starring Timothée Chalamet. So Timothée Chalamet is essentially competing with himself at this point. It only had a 29% drop, and so far, its domestic total is up to $217 million, and worldwide total of $625 million. Huge success for Warner Brothers, as will be Dune. Dune will also be, I think, a huge success for them. We have another comment here in the chat from Viviana Metzger saying, "I can't believe Migration, the little engine that could." Exactly, right? Which is weird because it's not even, I haven't looked at like audience reception necessarily, but it doesn't seem like a film that would get this much kind of attention. I think families are just looking to get back to the theater, right? Just bring their families to the theater. It's a fun hour and a half, 2 hours to kill at the movie theater. So it's very interesting to see, kind of the staying power that something like Migration and Wonka have had.